Part 71. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 701. Chapter 701. Do you suspect Suemo is a shadow hunter? Then will he be in danger? Xia Ying was stunned for a moment and asked. Have no idea. Yu Lingfeng raised his hand and stroked the thin bangs on Xia Ying's forehead, with warmth in his eyes. Fill in your information carefully, and then go fencing with me after completing it. Xia Ying's hand holding the pen trembled. She raised her eyes and looked at Yu Lingfeng. Fencing? You know how to fence? Why didn't I know? No, but you can learn it. Then have you learned it? I haven't started learning yet. Xia Ying was ashamed, looking at Yu Lingfeng's serious look. It didn't look like he was joking. Forgot that he is Yu Lingfeng. His learning ability is not comparable to that of ordinary people. So is Yu Lingfeng planning to learn it later? But I don't know how to fence. Xia Ying said dejectedly. You just have to look around. The protagonist today is neither me nor you. Who is that? Xia Ying became interested. Suemo. Yu Lingfeng opened her thin lips lightly and said calmly. Suemo. Xia Ying chewed on this name. At Imperial University, Hanzija and Suemo were both names that had a relatively high exposure rate. Hanzija is with a reputation for being a playboy. Suemo has a good reputation as a gentle and smiling senior, so he is also popular among the girls. Of course, there is another name related to Suemo, that is Suji. Everyone said that Suji liked Suemo, but Xia Ying and Suji had lived together for so long, so she didn't see any clues. Suji doesn't seem to go to Suemo very often, and he doesn't talk about Suemo in class. Or maybe Suji just hasn't been discovered by Xia Ying. After all, the relationship between Suji and Xia Ying is still relatively distant. Remember the last time you went to the haunted house? Xia Ying nodded. Sumo's skills are extraordinary, so I'm wondering if he was the one who followed us last time. Yu Lingfeng continued, anyway, the purpose of this time is to test how powerful Suemo is. His reaction last time and his slightly revealed skills had already made Yu Lingfeng suspicious of him. An ordinary college student, an exchange student from country M, with an ordinary background but unique and profound skills. Such a personality had to make Yu Lingfeng a little suspicious of him. Do you suspect that Suemo is a shadow hunter? Xia Ying filled out the information, got into the car with Yu Lingfeng, and headed towards the fencing hall. Yu Lingfeng continued, the death of the low-level shadow hunter last time was also very strange. If he had not died, it is very likely that the location of the headquarters would have been exposed. So, if you put it this way, Sumo's suspicion is indeed quite high. Xia Ying murmured. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng got out of the car and happened to meet Chu Shenxiu, who had just arrived outside the museum. Chu Shenxiu's eyes lit up when he saw Xia Ying, and he immediately ran towards Xia Ying. Cousin Sakura, you're here too. Just as Chu Shenxiu was about to pounce on Xia Ying, Yu Lingfeng stepped in front of Xia Ying, and Chu Shenxiu hurriedly stopped the car. You, what are you doing? Chu Shenxiu became furious. Why was it that Yu Lingfeng and Xia Ying were together and it was difficult for him to even touch Xia Ying? Be aware of the impact. Yu Lingfeng said with a cold face, although you are her cousin, she is already an adult. It is not good for you to do this. Hey, Yu Lingfeng, don't think that I don't know what you think. Chu Shenxiu said angrily, Yu Lingfeng is such a domineering madman. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 702. Chapter 702. How could there be such an arrogant person? It's good to know. Yu Lingfeng had no expression on his face. He took Xia Ying's hand and led her into the fencing hall. Chu Shenxiu followed them with an unhappy face. Not long after they arrived, Suemo came over. Suemo was accompanied by a girl, which no one expected. When Chu Sensio saw the girl, he immediately stood up, grinned and teased Suemo, "Hey, when did you get a girlfriend?" "Not long." Suemo chuckled, glanced at everyone, and then introduced the short-haired girl next to him. Korean poetry, freshman in the Chinese department. "Hello." The girl named Han Xiu smiled and greeted everyone. Although the girl was not particularly stunningly good-looking, she looked very comfortable and her smile was contagious. "Hello." Xia Ying smiled politely at her. Han Xiu stared at Xia Ying for a long time, silently marveling at Xia Ying's beauty. Then, Han Xiu's gaze rose up and fell on Yu Lingfeng beside Xia Ying. Han Xiu's envious eyes immediately shone with light. She originally thought that Suemo was already very good looking, but she didn't expect that the little brothers she saw today were also good looking. Especially this man in black ascetic clothing, with a straight face and cold eyes, is really good looking. After Han Xiu's eyes fell on Yu Lingfeng, he struggled for a long time before reluctantly moving away. She can't let everyone see her acting like a nymphomaniac, she has to be reserved and reserved. Yu Lingfeng and the others went to change into their fencing uniforms. Chu Sensio took the sword, pointed at Yu Lingfeng, and said, "Hey, didn't you say you wanted to defeat me? Get out of line quickly and let's compete." Yu Lingfeng leaned back, looking at Chu Sensio with indifferent eyes. "You and Suemo come first, and I'll see how you play." Chu Sensio frowned and put down his sword. "Damn it, Yu Lingfeng, don't tell me you haven't started learning yet." Yu Lingfeng said she didn't know how to do it when she first asked him out. Then, now that she's here, this guy actually doesn't know how to do it. Is he still planning to defeat him? Is this guy so arrogant? It's too late. Yu Lingfeng's expression was unquestionable and determined. "I wonder, there are people like you." Chu Sensio said angrily, then turned to Suemo and said, "Let's come." Suemo nodded, and then he and Chu Sensio walked to the playing field. Yu Lingfeng stood aside, watching attentively. At the same time, Han Xiu was also sneaking a look at Yu Lingfeng. Although he appeared calm on the surface, he was already as panicked as a rabbit in the wilderness. Why is this man so good looking? It's so hard to take your eyes away. When Suemo and Chu Sensio were fencing, Yu Lingfeng was observing Sumo's every move. Chu Sensio said that he was a professional. Xia Ying also told Yu Lingfeng that Chu Sensio won the fencing competition championship when he was in S country, so naturally Chu Sensio's fencing level goes without saying. As for Suemo, I haven't heard him say anything about his achievements, but judging from his performance on the field, he is not inferior to Chu Sensio. Although Yu Lingfeng was not a professional, he could see that Sumo's postures and other aspects were not as professional as Chu Sensio's, but he learned quickly. He could quickly learn some of the powerful moves that Chu Sensio had scored. Learn and apply now. Therefore, this Suemo must not be a simple person. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 703. Chapter 703 I'm ready to defeat you. As a result of the competition, Chu Sensio defeated Suemo with a slight advantage. Suemo walked aside and sat down. Han Xiu handed Suemo a towel and a drink. Suemo took a sip of his drink and then said to Chu Sensio, "You are really powerful. You are also very good. Didn't you say that you rarely play fencing?" Chu Sensio said with emotion. He really almost lost just now, but fortunately he finally exerted his strength and led Suemo by a slight advantage. "I'm exhausted." Suemo lay back on the sofa. Yu Lingfeng had been observing Suemo calmly and said that usually, shadow hunters would have marks on their bodies, but there were no marks on Suemo, at least, Yu Lingfeng asked 11 Ju to scan Su Mo and found nothing. But Yu Lingfeng had a strong hunch that he was something special. Maybe he had already considered this level, and it's not necessarily that he hit his mark. Yu Lingfeng was so lost in thought that he was stunned when Chu Sensio suddenly patted his shoulder. Hey, Yu Lingfeng, do you understand? Do you still want to compete with me, or should I find a few coaches to teach you how to get started? Chu Sensio's face was full of embarrassment, with an evil smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. No need. Yu Lingfeng raised the corners of his mouth. I already know how to defeat you. Yu Lingfeng's words were very light, but when they fell into Chu Sensio's ears, they were a bombshell. Have you made a mistake? The joke was too outrageous, right? He had never played fencing before. After watching him and Su Mo play a game, he made such nonsense that he had found a way to defeat him. Chu Sensio said that his character had been humiliated, and Yu Lingfeng looked down on him too much. Okay, wait for me to take a rest for 20 minutes, and let me teach you how to be a low-key person. Chu Sensio clenched his fist and said very seriously. Yu Lingfeng said nothing, just lowered his eyes, thinking about something. Chu Sensio walked to the side and sat down unhappily. Although he had not started competing with Yu Lingfeng yet, Yu Lingfeng's words had already severely dampened his self-esteem. Give him the feeling that he has already lost the game before it even begins. Humph, Yu Lingfeng, just wait, I will torture you well. After Su Mo heard what Yu Lingfeng said, he casually raised his eyelids and glanced at Yu Lingfeng standing aside. Normally, Yu Lingfeng always looks cold and unapproachable, but Su Mo can sense that Yu Lingfeng is definitely a very powerful person. Whether it's his brain or anything else, he is an unfathomable person. Therefore, he is still very interested in the match between Yu Lingfeng and Chu Sensio. Can a person who has never played fencing really be able to directly compete against a fencing champion like Chu Sensio after watching a match? Su Mo felt inexplicably excited about this. For some reason, he should have doubted the authenticity of this matter. But when Yu Lingfeng said that he would defeat him, it suddenly became less difficult to accept. This man is indeed not a good person. Chu Sensio had rested, walked straight to Yu Lingfeng, and said as if declaring war, Yu Lingfeng, I am ready to defeat you. Yu Lingfeng did not show off his verbal chatter with Chu Sensio, but stood up slowly and walked to the fencing field. Everyone held their breath and stared at these two jade-like young men. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 704. Chapter 704. Your baby will definitely be a genius in the future. At the beginning, Chu Sensio had an absolute advantage. After all, Yu Lingfeng was a person who had never touched fencing before, so he was beaten to death under the full attack of veteran Chu Sensio. Chu Sensio was naturally elated in his heart, but Yu Lingfeng remained calm and calm. He was finding the rhythm, adapting to himself and the sword, and adapting to the rules of the game. So, when the game reached the midfield, Yu Lingfeng slowly began to come back. Chu Sensio panicked a little, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He did not expect that Yu Lingfeng would adapt so quickly and learn the essentials of fencing so quickly. This man is simply terrifying. Su Mo stared at Yu Lingfeng the whole time, trying not to miss every step that Yu Lingfeng took to score successfully. How could there be such a powerful person? Is he really just a novice? If it is true, then his learning ability is too strong, right? Is this person still human? Su Mo fell into self-doubt. And Han Xiu beside Su Mo had already seen stars in her eyes. Yu Lingfeng was the perfect man in her heart. Tall, handsome, and smart, what more could a husband ask for when he has a husband like this? Han Xiu clenched her fists, her whole heart hanging with the tense atmosphere of the game. Han Xiu whispered in her heart, "Come on Yu Lingfeng," and almost blurted it out. Fortunately, her remaining sanity stopped her. The result of the competition was that Yu Lingfeng won. When Yu Lingfeng's last sword stabbed Chu Shenxiu's waist, the sword in Chu Shenxiu's hand slipped from his hand, and Chu Shenxiu fell limp and knelt on the ground. He stared blankly at the floor with his eyes, suddenly forgetting the time and space he was in, and his thoughts wandered to no one knows where. He lost, he actually lost, he was a fencing champion and lost to a novice Yu Lingfeng. This Yu Lingfeng once again refreshed his understanding of him. Yu Lingfeng walked up to Chu Shenxiu and stretched out his hand. Chu Shenxiu looked up at Yu Lingfeng, with an indifferent face. He didn't seem to have any surprise or joy of victory. It was as if everything was within his expectation, and it seemed that he had already decided whether to win or lose. Chu Shenxiu did not hold Yu Lingfeng's hand, but stood up by himself. Yu Lingfeng, you are simply not a human being. Chu Shenxiu's words were spoken from the bottom of his heart. He has been jokingly calling Yu Lingfeng an old monster who became a spirit before the founding of the People's Republic of China. Now it seems that this monster is not a monster, it is obviously a big devil. How does he want other people to survive? Chu Shenxiu approached Yu Lingfeng to play a game for the first time, and it didn't take long for this guy to reach the top of the daily rankings. Now he, a man who had never learned fencing, defeated him in one fell swoop. Chu Shenxiu felt as if he was in a dream, and he was still in Yu Lingfeng's dream. Because such outrageous things would never happen in Chu Shenxiu's dreams. Yu Lingfeng did not answer. He was not a human being in the first place. Chu Shenxiu and Yu Lingfeng walked towards Xia Ying and the others. Xia Ying patted Chu Shenxiu on the shoulder and comforted him. It's okay, big turtle dove, you are still great. Chu Shenxiu looked at Xia Ying and said, cousin Xia Ying is better. Su Emo has not yet recovered from the shock, and looks at Yu Lingfeng with a blank expression. Cousin Sakura, you must marry Yu Lingfeng. This guy's brain is so powerful, your baby will definitely be a genius in the future. Chu Shenxiu said this without starting or ending. Thank you little cutie, who is standing on tiptoe, 18243, 4-leaf clover, love. More rewards. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 705. Chapter 705. Su Emo, let me play a game with you. Xia Ying was amused by Chu Shenxiu's serious look. Haha, it's rare to hear you say a nice word for Yu Lingfeng. Hong Kong Zhen, I am impressed by Yu Lingfeng's appearance and brains. Chu Shenxiu turned away, looked at Yu Lingfeng and said. Yu Lingfeng just raised his lips and smiled lightly, it's good that you know. Chu Shenxiu's face darkened. Although he was praising Yu Lingfeng, could Yu Lingfeng be a little more modest? Well, this guy does have his arrogance. This is not the first time that Chu Shenxiu has been forced to recognize this fact. Chu Shenxiu's unintentional words fell into Han Xiu's ears, and her originally bright face suddenly became dissatisfied with the gloomy color. Everyone's eyes were on Yu Lingfeng, so they didn't notice her sudden change of face. Han Xiu raised his eyes and stared at Xia Ying blankly. Different from the previous gaze, Han Xiu's gaze this time was much more detailed. If Han Xiu looked at Xia Ying before because she was the celebrity Xia Ying, then now Han Xiu's eyes are more provocative, just like the feeling of fighting for a mate in the animal world, full of strong smell of gunpowder, and all of this, Xia Ying none of it is known. Han Xiu also knew that Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng were a couple through Chu Shenxiu's joking words just now. No woman would refuse an excellent and perfect man like Yu Lingfeng, and Han Xiu knew that when she saw Yu Lingfeng from the first sight, I secretly fell in love with him. But she didn't expect that Yu Lingfeng was already with Xia Ying. Yu Lingfeng walked towards Su Emo, who was relaxing with his eyes closed. Su Emo felt the dimness of the surrounding light, then raised his eyes and met Yu Lingfeng's eyes that had almost no warmth or expression. What's wrong? Su Emo asked with a faint look on his face. How about we play a game with you? Su Emo immediately stood up from the sofa chair and looked at Yu Lingfeng in disbelief. There was still an unpredictable look on Yu Lingfeng's face, as if the words he just said were more like "what are you going to eat later" without any threat or oppression, rather than "I just defeated the fencing champion, people are coming to challenge you." Yu Lingfeng, are you kidding me? Su Emo had a sly smile on his face, and his eyes were clearly avoiding him, but Yu Lingfeng didn't think about it that much at the moment. When he said he wanted to play with Su Emo, it was more of an order than an invitation. Su Emo obviously sensed the strong aura emanating from Yu Lingfeng, so when Yu Lingfeng was silent for 2 seconds, waiting for his answer, Su Emo quickly stood up and put on his helmet. Holding the sword, went to the direction of the arena with Yu Lingfeng. Chu Sensio sat like an uncle, watching the duel between Yu Lingfeng and Su Emo as if it were a show. Although Chu Sensio naturally held high the banner that Yu Lingfeng would win, he was also inexplicably looking forward to the showdown between Su Emo and Yu Lingfeng. Su Emo is also a smart man. The match between Chu Sensio and Su Emo just now was a narrow victory. Neither of them are proficient in swordsmanship, but they are smart people dueling, so the scene should be more exciting. Be merciful. Su Emo raised his sword and said to Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng did not respond, but a pair of determined eyes was enough to show that he did not intend to give in. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 706. Chapter 706 Fighting or Fencing. Chu Sensio thought that the battle between the two of them should be gradual. After all, both of them were not familiar with the rules. However, Chu Sensio did not expect that whether it was Yu Lingfeng or Su Emo, both of them were at the beginning. He had no intention of giving in to the other party. At the end, Chu Sensio was stunned the whole time. These two people were not fencing, they were just fighting. As for the swords, they had completely become their weapons. Wherever the rules came to them, they also became decorations. Chu Sensio covered his eyes, his face full of pain. This is not fencing, this is insulting fencing, these two hooligans. Although Xia Ying didn't understand the rules of fencing, she could tell that the two people had a strong sense of gunpowder. You lose. Yu Lingfeng's sword was positioned half a centimeter away from Sumo's neck. A big bead of sweat flowed down Sumo's face. Su Emo kept breathing heavily because of fatigue. Su Emo stared at Yu Lingfeng with his falcon-like eyes. He didn't know what the purpose of Yu Lingfeng's competition with him was, but the man in front of him was indeed too powerful. Sumo's sword fell to the ground and made a sharp sound. Yu Lingfeng walked towards Xia Ying and the others. Chu Sensio's face was full of sorrow. Are you fighting or fencing? Su Emo stepped forward and took a swig of water. Yu Lingfeng turned sideways and looked at him quietly. Xia Ying handed Yu Lingfeng a bottle of water. Yu Lingfeng was in good condition. He was not sweating like Su Emo and kept wiping the sweat on his face. At most, Yu Lingfeng's breathing was a little disordered and he hadn't calmed down yet. Are you hungry? There is a new restaurant not far away that tastes good. Do you want to go there and try it later? Han Xiu suddenly suggested, breaking the awkward situation. No need, I still have something to do, let's go first. Yu Lingfeng said, completely ignoring Han Xiu's enthusiastic gaze, taking Xia Ying's hand and leading her out of the fencing hall. The abandoned Chu Sensio quickly followed them and shouted, Hey, don't abandon me. This Yu Lingfeng is really the one who asked him out, and now he is going to throw him away without saying a word. Su Emo froze on the spot, thinking for a while, still sweating. But what was more of a cold sweat was that he was shocked by Yu Lingfeng. Su Emo, let's leave too. Han Xiu's face was gentle, he put his right hand on Sumo's shoulder and whispered to him. Take your paws off me. Who would have thought that Su Emo would respond to her with such a sentence that was so cold that it made people freeze? Han Xiu trembled and immediately retracted his hand as quickly as possible. Han Xiu bit her lower lip and looked at Su Emo silently. Although her eyes were full of reluctance and grievance, she still did not dare to say a word in rebuttal. "You're standing here and not leaving, do you still want me to take you home?" Su Emo said without raising his head. Han Xi's tone made her body tremble. Even though Su Emo was scolded thousands of times in his heart, he still maintained a smile on the surface. "Then I'll leave first." After Han Xiu finished speaking, he turned around, his sweet face immediately drooped. "Really, I don't know what kind of bad temper he has. Why should he take it out on her after losing the game? If he had the ability, he would defeat Yu Lingfeng. To be honest, this Yu Lingfeng is so perfect. Although he is already Xia Ying's boyfriend, Han Xiu feels that with Yu Lingfeng's cold temperament, he might prefer a passionate girl like her." End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 707. Chapter 707. Do you think you are filming a costume martial arts drama? On the way, Xia Ying turned sideways and looked at Yu Lingfeng's soft profile. Yu Lingfeng lowered his eyes slightly and looked out the car window, as if thinking about something. "Yu Lingfeng, have you come to any conclusion?" Yu Lingfeng said he wanted to test sumo's skills when he came here. In the match between Yu Lingfeng and Su Emo just now, it was obvious that Yu Lingfeng intended to force Su Emo to use all his hidden strength. Therefore, Yu Lingfeng adopted a fierce attack mode from the beginning, not giving Su Emo a chance to breathe. When people are forced to do something in a hurry, they will naturally make some subconscious actions, and such subconscious actions usually cannot deceive others. Xia Ying thought that this was what Yu Lingfeng had planned. Su Emo was beaten to death by Yu Lingfeng from the beginning. In order to avoid losing too badly, Su Emo did not restrain himself. And later, Su Emo completely exposed everything about himself to Yu Lingfeng. That's why Su Emo was so angry later on. He was aware of this in his heart, and he didn't want Yu Lingfeng to discover what he was hiding. But he muttered about Yu Lingfeng's strength. This man was really good at seducing, forcing him to reveal all his trump cards step by step. He is very powerful, and, at least, he has been practicing martial arts for more than 10 years, and he should still be practicing martial arts. Because his movements are naturally made by his body when he thinks he is under threat, it means that his muscles have memorized it. When faced with potential danger, muscles respond faster than the brain. Xia Ying's eyes widened in shock. For more than 10 years, it was definitely not just a matter of interest. Why did Su Emo practice martial arts? Such a result brought Su Emo one step closer to the option of being a shadow hunter. What the hell, are you still practicing martial arts, Yu Lingfeng? Do you think you are filming a period martial arts drama? Comments from the heart of Chu Shenxiu on the side. Yu Lingfeng didn't say anything, but silently gave Chu Shenxiu a look. Chu Shenxiu was stared at by Yu Lingfeng's eyes and immediately gave up. Okay, everything he said was right, so he better stop talking. Chu Shenxiu shut his mouth very wisely. The next day, Xia Ying just got up, opened the floor-to-ceiling curtains in her room, and saw a young man standing in front of her door. Moreover, Xia Ying could tell at a glance that the person was Qian Yin's. Because under the sun, Qian Yin's distinctive white hair is really eye-catching. When Xia Ying saw Qian Yin's, she curled her lips with pride. She knew that Qian Yin's, this kid, would definitely come to look for her again. Qian Yin's leaned in front of Xia Ying's house. He stood up straight for a while and walked around a few times. Then he squatted on the ground and drew circles. It seemed that he was extremely conflicted in his heart. He probably wanted to go in, but at the same time hesitant because of his pitiful self-esteem. After all, in his eyes, Xia Ying is the messenger of darkness and he is the son of light. Darkness and light are incompatible. If he took the initiative to come to Xia Ying, Wouldn't it violate their principle of being a child of light? Wait a minute, Xia Ying was confused. What was she thinking? Was she infected by Jian Yin's? Xia Ying quickly shook her head, diluting the terrible thought in her mind. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 708. Chapter 708, Being arrogant makes me happy for a while. Hey, son of light, are you absorbing the essence of the sun and moon, or are you performing photosynthesis? Xia Ying's voice came from above Qinyan's. Qinyan suddenly heard Xia Ying's voice and trembled. Then he raised his head and met Xia Ying's gaze. I'm just passing by, just passing by. Qianyins clenched his fists and said angrily. Oh, don't bother me then. Xia Ying said and closed the curtains. The expression on Qianyin's face froze immediately. It's amazing, Aya Jiao was happy for a while, but now she's fine. Xia Ying ignores him. This mouth is broken. Qianyins patted his mouth twice, then raised his head and looked in the direction of Xia Ying's window. Hey, Xia Ying, I have something to talk to you about. Xia Ying's curtains were opened again. Xia Ying looked at Qianyins with a smile in her eyes. Hey, don't call me the dark messenger anymore. Are you sons of light too unprincipled? Damn it. Qianyins looked at Xia Ying with gritted teeth. She was just teasing him on purpose. Hey, come in. Xia Ying said, turned, and left. Qianyins finally pressed the doorbell, and then the servant came and opened the door. Qianyins was waiting for Xia Ying in the living room, while Xia Ying was washing up. Yu Lingfeng just walked to the living room and glanced at Qianyins. Why are you here? Qianyins pursed his lips. Why is this guy here? Hey, isn't this the son of light? Chu Shenxiu also came over and joked. Qianyins. Zhu also came out. Qianyins Ahun, do these people all live under the same roof? Oh my god. Now, he was so embarrassed. Qianyins held his forehead, but said nothing, helpless. What are you doing here? Are you going to fight the dark messenger? Chu Shenxiu approached Qianyins and said with a smile. Qianyins snorted coldly and ignored him. Qianyins, are you planning to sign a contract with Sakura's company? Zihu didn't notice at all that Qianyin's face had turned black to charcoal, and he said in a hazy voice. The sound echoed throughout the living room and was heard by all the servants. Qianyins resisted the urge to strangle 11 Jew to death. Now, everyone in the room knew what he was doing. Really, he came alone because he felt embarrassed. Although he was prepared to be embarrassed, he didn't expect to be embarrassed in front of so many people. This is really the Waterloo of his idol career, the most humiliating one. Hey, you are all here. Xia Ying went downstairs, and everyone's eyes met Xia Ying's. Xia Ying walked to the sofa and sat down, staring at Qianyins with a smile. What was originally a sweet smile turned into ridicule in Qianyin's eyes. Although his son of light is lonely, he will always rise. Xia Ying held a contract document in her hand and handed it to Qianyins. Qianyins was stunned, looking down at the words on the cover. Sign a contract. Qianyins opened it and looked at it. I wonder, did Xia Ying expect that he would come to her? So have you even prepared the signing of the contract in advance? Qianyins covered his chest, expressing that he was very hurt. If there's no problem, just sign the contract first. Xia Ying said. Qianyins said dully, I don't know some words. Xia Ying frowned, looking so confident even though she is illiterate. Let me read it for you. Zihu took the initiative to ask Yingdao and took away the contract from Qianyins. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 709. Chapter 709, A Piece of Unpolished Jade. At first, Jianyins listened to the previous terms with a blank expression. They were just ordinary contract terms. However, when 11 Ju read, Party B must call Party A boss and cannot call Dark Messenger or other secondary names, Jianyin's face immediately changed. Why should this be restricted? Xia Ying looked up at him slowly, because I don't want others to think that the person I signed is still in the late middle school years at the age of 20. Jianyins rolled his eyes and said, whoever got the second prize. This world is like this. If it weren't for my son of light guarding him. Shut up. Xia Ying interrupted him with a cold face, Zihu, please continue reading. Okay, 11 Ju then began to read. After reading out all the terms, Xia Ying seemed to have thought of something and asked Jianyins, have you signed a contract with other companies before? Originally, there were a large number of companies waiting for me to sign a contract, but since director Wang's movie went bad, I was abandoned. Jianyins said dully. That's fine, there's no problem. Xia Ying said. Then when will we start training? Jianyins became a little anxious. He wants to make money as soon as possible and pay off his family's debts as soon as possible. Don't worry, let me take a look at my class schedule and I will make arrangements for you then. Huh, class schedule, are you still in school? Jianyin's question made Xia Ying's face freeze. Xia Ying twitched her lips, do I look like a young girl who is still in school? Jianyins curled his lips and said, that's not true, but haven't you already started a company? It won't affect my schooling. All right. Jianyins didn't say much more. Anyway, he had checked Xia Ying's information. The monster in front of him had become very popular in high school with 2 honors, Thornbird and San Diego Music Competition champion. So no matter what she does now, Jianyins doesn't think there's anything strange about it. Where's our company, where's my agent's assistant and stuff like that? Xia Ying raised her eyebrows and glanced at Jianyins with disgust, are you mistaken? You haven't debuted yet. You are just an ordinary trainee now. When the time comes, I will naturally arrange it for you. Debut. As for our company, it is still to be determined. After hearing this, Jianyins let out a long ah, his eyes full of disappointment. Are we just a shell company? Jianyins suddenly felt as if he had been sold out personally. It turns out that they haven't chosen a good location for their company now, they just have the name Thornbird Music Company. Why do you say it so harshly? It's a shell company. I'm just hesitating about the address of the company. I want to buy a place. Isn't that a matter of minutes? Xia Ying looks quite wealthy. She was not joking. If nothing else, she just said that the copyright of the songs she released was more than enough to buy a company's floor space. Oh well. Jianyins lay back and said, then make arrangements as soon as possible. I want to make my debut as soon as possible. Do you play any musical instrument? Xia Ying asked again. Jianyins shook his head. Can't do anything. Xia Ying asked further. Won't. So, can you dance? Jianyins then shook his head. Xia Ying rolled her eyes helplessly. This is really a piece of jade that has not been polished in any way. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 710. Chapter 710 Cultivating All-Round Idols. Xia Ying originally planned to train Jianyins into an all-round idol who could sing and dance, but this guy had a smoky voice and had not received any training. At best, it sounds like a cigarette voice, but at worst, it sounds like a Drake voice. Xia Ying felt that she would have to spend a lot of money on Jianyins before she could slowly make back the money, and the day when she would make the money back seemed far away. I'll sign you up for a class and you'll learn how to dance. There will also be vocal lessons, and I'll teach you myself. Xia Ying said. Huh, do you still want to learn to dance? Qianyins opened his mouth wide. Otherwise, do you plan to sing while lying on the stage during a concert? Qianyin's face turned dark. Why did he speak so unpleasantly? You want to be an idol singer now. After all, you have an invincible face. If you don't work hard, there are many young talents in the music industry who sing better than you, have a wider range of voices, can sing and dance, but compared with them, you have nothing but a face. Advantages. You don't want to be called a vase, so working hard is the foundation. Qianyins actually listened to Xia Ying's serious words. Although they didn't sound right, they were true. Qianyins also knows that before his family went bankrupt, he was a carefree young master. He doesn't have to worry about anything every day. As long as he wants something, he can get it. He doesn't need to work hard. The family can spend money to let him study abroad, and it's a good school. But now, he has nothing. He has not studied hard and has no stock in his stomach. When he goes to work in the company, no one will want him, a spoiled young man who knows nothing. He could only rely on his innate external conditions to earn a living in the entertainment industry. Qianyins didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse for him to be favored by Xia Ying. He also didn't know that his life would change after meeting Xia Ying. What transformation will occur? Well, don't worry, I will work hard to practice dancing. Qianyin's eyes were firm. By the way, did you take a break from school? Xia Ying's voice softened. Qianyins nodded. Because his family is bankrupt, he cannot afford to go to such expensive foreign prestigious schools. I had to take a break from school and work hard for life in advance. I will ask the teacher to teach you cultural classes. Although you are following the idol route, you still need basic knowledge. I don't want you to make jokes when you appear on variety shows in the future. Xia Ying said earnestly. Next, Xia Ying gave Qianyins a bunch of things to pay attention to. Qianyins also responded one by one and kept it in mind. After Qianyins left, Xia Ying chatted for a long time and her mouth was dry, so she drank a large amount of water. Yu Lingfeng stood beside Xia Ying, his eyes like catkins falling softly on Xia Ying. You are quite professional and attentive to your first contract partner. You really have the potential to be a boss. Yes. Xia Ying winked playfully at Yu Lingfeng. It's been inherited from our ancestors. We, the Xia family, are born to do business and be bosses. Cough, cough. At this time, Chu Shenxiu on the side began to sigh inexplicably, and the sound became louder and louder, as if he was deliberately trying to attract the attention of Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng. What are you doing? Xia Ying turned around and looked at Chu Shenxiu. Originally, I was thinking of opening a company and signing a contract with cousin Sakura. Now, you have started your own company and become the boss. All my plans have been disrupted by you. Thanks to the little cutie 18819? Rewards for stepping on the coffin and dancing on ghost steps and scattered spirits. Today's monthly ticket reaches 65 and more will be added. End of this chapter.